The philosophical works of Plato are much revered today and are often quoted. We may think his work is outdated, but it actually applies to us now in our daily lives because he deals with the fundamental questions about life, questions that arise from deep within the soul. We are searching for wisdom and answers about the purpose and goal of our lives now, just as people did over 2,000 years ago. The word philosophy means love for true knowledge. Another word for true knowledge is gnosis. Like all of the universal wisdom teachings, which have been offered to humanity throughout time, Plato's teachings have the aim of leading the human soul, which was formerly part of the divine essence, back to a conscious connection with the spiritual light. Plato did not hide in the world of his writings. He was facing the reality of life with challenges similar to ones we face today. It was a time of political uncertainty, social chaos, upheaval, and war. So he experienced painfully the stark contrast between his inner yearning for the eternal truth and the outer world with all its lies, chaos, and uncertainty.
Plato shared his experience with his contemporaries through his deep insights into the divine reality, the light that is always there. He tried to remove the veils from people's eyes, the veils that arise from the natural order in which we live, the veils that are formed by our state of eye consciousness. Plato had removed these veils in his own being, and so gained great insight into the omnipresent, eternal nature. The daily reality of our lives is of dualistic and transient nature order, a world of opposites, measured in units of time. But there is also a divine order of nature, which is not bound to space and time, one which is omnipresent and eternal. As Plato wrote, quote, "The entire time from childhood to old age is only very small compared to eternity, just nothing. Don't you consider it the duty of an immortal being not to worry about this time, but about eternity?" Plato's work has never lost its importance. It is timeless. People in Plato's time were in dire need of a new direction of life, just as we are today. The call for inner transformation is always present in human beings and calls us more loudly in certain time periods, such as now. But we need to learn to listen to it and then make the choice to follow this one truth in our heart.
Our concrete thinking, our material consciousness, cannot experience the divine truth. Only a new thinking, a new consciousness that is born out of the power of the one eternal truth, can connect with the divine truth through the spirit spark in our heart. Concrete thinking can, however, convey to the seeker, who already senses the eternal world of the spirit, an idea of this other world, of this new reality. The concrete thinking can give the seeker the impulse to go the path of experience, to connect with this other world. This is the path of development of the soul. We have again reached a border with our thinking that is focused on this world of matter. Plato had crossed this border by admitting with his entire being, "I know that I know nothing." Plato opened up to the inflowing radiation of divine wisdom. Throughout his life, he tried to share his insights with others, offering the eternal reality he was able to glimpse. He founded an academy where emphasis was placed on the thinking faculty of the human being. There he offered guidance based on the eternal principle in the heart, thinking with the heart, rather than concrete material thinking. With this guidance, we can acquire a deep knowledge about our true eternal essence and our intended destination. Plato used allegories to help people understand the truth about their lives. One of the most famous of these is his allegory of the cave. It describes our reality, how we are so absorbed and thereby imprisoned by the so-called reality of our life. We do not know how to find a way out. We do not even know that another reality exists.
Plato asks the reader to imagine a cave where people have been imprisoned since childhood. These prisoners are chained so that their heads are fixed, forcing them to gaze only at the wall in front of them. They can't look around in the cave or at each other. Behind the prisoners, firelight shines onto moving puppets, so that their shadows are cast onto the wall in front of the prisoners. The prisoners cannot see any of what is happening behind them. They are only able to see the shadows of the puppets cast upon the cave wall in front of them. The shadows are the prisoners' reality because they have never seen anything else. They do not realize that what they see are only shadows of puppets. In order to see the reality of their lives, the prisoners would have to turn around or leave the cave. The cave allegory shows us clearly that if we want to see the reality, then we have to turn around to change the focus of our life.
What drives us to seek? It is the innate yearning in our heart, the voice of the eternal divine principle in our heart, the spark of the Spirit, the rose of the heart. We, as human beings, are both mortal and immortal. The immortal part of us is the divine principle in our heart, which is of the same nature as the divine essence, and offers us the potential to escape from our imprisonment in the cave. We could say that we are actually threefold human beings. There is the spiritual aspect, the soul aspect, and the biological body. The spiritual part is represented by what we call the microcosm, with the spirit spark at its center. The natural soul is formed by the subtle bodies of our personality, the etheric, the astral, and the mental, and by the karmic memory of the microcosm from its former inhabitants, which altogether make up our I consciousness. And the biological body is the physical body and its etheric double, which gives life energy to the physical body. The spiritual aspect is essentially immortal. It represents the universal and potentially divine aspect of the human being. Potential because it lies beyond the space-time limitations of our current consciousness. Therefore, we can understand it as the eternal being, the real being that is connected with us. The natural soul is made up of the mortal, subtle bodies, but they can become immortal through an inner transformation. And all human beings, all of us, are called to follow an inner path to accomplish this change.
In our current state of consciousness, our soul, with its subtle bodies, is mortal. But with the birth and growth of a new consciousness centered on the spiritual aspect of our being, these vehicles can be transformed and exist in cooperation with a divine reality. the reality beyond the space-time boundary. The biological aspect of our being is essentially mortal because its cellular structures and all its operative memory have been formed from a limited three-dimensional state of consciousness and are therefore destined to eventually vanish as an entirely spatio-temporal phenomenon. We as human beings are called to gradually free the soul from its biological aspect and to transfer its center of gravity to its spiritual aspect. Then, from the mortal soul, a new immortal soul can form. It entails a complete inner reversal of our life focus, away from the focus on our I and towards the eternal principle, the spirit spark within us. The divine spark in our heart is waiting for us to shift our focus. It has been waiting for a very long time. This spirit spark, the rose heart, this universal eternal principle, can guide us mortal human beings through this inner self revolution because its essence is the same as that of the divine spirit. In this way, a new consciousness can be born in us as consciousness that is eternal. The seeker on the path will eventually realize that the mortal aspects of the soul, the I, stand in the way of the eternal aspects in the heart. He will understand that his I is actually imprisoning the divine principle, the real being. Only by consciously giving up oneself, the I, and surrendering to the divine soul principle in one's heart can the divine soul develop again. Then the eternal aspect of our being, the microcosm, will be returned in its full glory and freedom.
In the Republic, Plato used the story of the mutilated sea god Glaucus as a metaphor to describe the state of the imprisoned microcosm. Glaucus, whose name means glimmer, was rendered unrecognizable because parts of his body were broken off, crushed, and marred by the waves. In addition, shells and seaweed and rocks had attached themselves to him so that he looked more like a wild creature than what he was by nature, a god. This state describes our soul with all its accumulated burdens, its evils, its corruption and pain caused by our egocentric living. At the same time, the spirit, the real being within us, lies dormant as a spark in the heart, as a glimmer. Plato continues in his story about the mutilated sea god. Our vision of the soul is marred by countless evils, but we must look elsewhere, to its love of wisdom, and we must note the associations for which the soul yearns, as being itself similar to the divine and to eternal being, and so consider what the soul might be if it followed the gleam unreservedly and were raised by this impulse out of the depths of the sea in which it is now sunk.
What are the first steps to prepare for this return? The first step is insight into the limitations of the things in this world and the knowledge of the existence of the two nature orders, an outer world of constant change and an inner world of the eternal which underlies all existence. Plato calls it the world of eternal existence. The second step is the longing for healing. Plato calls it the higher eros, or love. This enables the soul of the seeker to learn to open its innermost being to the divine impulse. Thirdly, the seeker learns to shift the focus of his life away from the world of opposites, the world of constant change, and to attune it to the world of the eternal being, the divine spirit. The new focus of life confers a new power. Plato shared the wisdom he had found in his heart with his contemporaries, so they could also find the same eternal wisdom in their hearts. His philosophy, his love for true knowledge, for Gnosis, was a guide to a fundamental change in life in ancient Greece, and so it is still today. We are reminded about our true calling as human beings and the inner reversal that is necessary in order to live from the divine spark, the rose in our heart. This reversal allows the transformation of I centered consciousness into a new consciousness that can connect with the divine truth through the divine spark, the rose of the heart. Through this transformation of our soul, we will become part of a totally new reality.